God bless you, my brothers and sisters. It is day 16 of the 40 days of decrease. I want to encourage you to read through the scriptures for today. That's John chapter 16, just two verses, verses 5 and 6. And today we are fasting from hysteria. Emotions are a gift from God. They alert us to danger, awaken compassion, and help us respond to the world with honesty and depth. Yet emotions were never meant to be our master. When feelings become unregulated, amplified, or unchecked, they can distort perception and drive reaction rather than wisdom. In moments of uncertainty or loss, they can quickly escalate into hysteria, which is overreaction fueled by fear rather than faith. Day 16 invites us to examine how we handle emotional intensity. It asks whether our responses are shaped by trust in God's presence or by panic when circumstances feel overwhelming. Lent calls us not to suppress emotion, but to submit it, to allow God to shape our responses rather than being carried away by them. Hysteria is the loss of emotional proportion. It is reaction without reflection. It is response without grounding. And spiritually, hysteria manifests when grief, fear, or anxiety overwhelms discernment and leads us to assume rather the worst, to rush to conclusions or to abandon trust. To fast from hysteria is not to deny emotion or to dismiss pain, but it is to refuse fear-driven escalation. It is the discipline of pausing, listening, and allowing God's truth to steady our inner life before we act. And so fasting hysteria trains us to remain anchored even when our emotions surge. Jesus speaks to his disciples at a moment charged with emotion, tells them plainly that he's leaving. The room fills with sorrow, with confusion, with fear. And Jesus names what is happening. Listen to Jesus. Sorrow has filled your hearts. He doesn't rebuke their emotion. He's trying to reframe it. And rather than allowing sorrow to spiral into despair, he redirects their attention to God's ongoing work. It is to your advantage that I go away, he says. His words are challenging emotional logic. Loss feels like disadvantage, not gain. Yet Jesus insists that what feels devastating now will become the ground for deeper guidance through the Spirit. He introduces the role of the Spirit as teacher and guide, one who will lead them into truth gradually. This promise is not given to remove emotion, but to anchor it. The Spirit's work is not to inflame fear, but to bring clarity, conviction, and steadiness over time. Hysteria often emerges when we believe that we must understand everything immediately. When answers are delayed, emotion is typically what fills the gap. Fear rushes in where patience is required, yet Jesus teaches a truth that unfolds progressively. I still have many things to say to them, but you cannot bear them now. That's a mercy. God doesn't overwhelm us with more than we can carry. And hysteria assumes that we must grasp everything at once or lose control completely. Faith allows us to receive truth as we're able, trusting that God's timing is sufficient. But when emotions run unchecked, they can drown out discernment. But when emotions are submitted, they become part of a faithful response rather than reactionary behavior. And Jesus does not shame the disciples for their sorrow. He steadies them with a promise. Here's the heart of day 16. Emotions are real, but they're not reliable leaders. Hysteria magnifies fear, but trust anchors the soul. Faith doesn't eliminate feeling, but it refuses to be ruled by it. Jesus acknowledges sorrow without allowing it to dictate the future. He calls his followers to trust that God is still at work, even when emotions suggest otherwise. Lent invites us to let faith speak louder than panic and hope to speak louder than fear. It trains emotional discipline, slows us down when everything in us wants to react quickly. It teaches us to breathe, to listen, and to wait on God before responding. By fasting hysteria, we learn to remain spiritually grounded even when things are intensifying. The season reminds us that stability is cultivated, it's not automatic. Emotional maturity is formed through repeated acts of trust. Lent becomes a school for the heart, shaping how we respond when uncertainty stirs strong emotions in us. So today's fast invites intentional pause. When strong emotions rise, you have to resist the urge to react immediately. Instead, practice reflection and prayerful waiting. Ask questions about what kind of things are driving that response and what truth God may be inviting you to remember. Today, I want you to identify one situation where emotion has been leading your reactions and then choose a measured response. Speak after listening. Decide after praying and allow God's peace to regulate your emotions. Here are your questions for reflection today before you pray. Where do strong emotions tend to override discernment in my life? How do I typically respond to uncertainty or loss? And what would it look like to let trust rather than panic guide my reactions? Remember, I want you to take the time to read through these scriptures. They're just two for today, John 16, verses 5 and 6. And then take the time to pray and really think through, pray through those reflection questions and take that step for today. God bless you, my brothers and sisters, and we'll see you on day 17.